Good evening and welcome back to DXB Today, where we are talking a community in action, where all of the big businesses are stepping up with many different initiatives that are helping and supporting the community. Which leads us to our next guest, who is joining us as the VP and the Managing Director of Talabat UAE. And she's here to explain about a new initiative involving rent-free cloud kitchens. Welcome, Simadina Sabatic. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Rent-free. How does this work? Cloud kitchens. It's like we Ash mentioned it at the top of the show, and I had a food brand. So imagining getting a cloud kitchen rent-free, how does it work initially for you, and how did the idea come up?
Look, when this started almost now more than a month ago, we really thought about, what can we do? And what can we do to, really help the businesses that were starting to talk to us, restaurants that immediately started to, get the feeling that the demand is really not what it used to be. And we have multiple businesses. Obviously, delivery is our core business, but we also have cloud kitchens, so spaces all around the UAE. We have almost 30 different kitchens that cover all of the Emirates that provide what we call kitchen stalls. And so these are spaces where you can come in, you can have a physical space, you can have a restaurant that has dine-in, or you can be a virtual brand, and this can help you really get going immediately. So it's sort of a hassle-free operation where you can start preparing your meal if you have a menu already and delivering as quickly as possible. And then we thought, could we give some of the spaces that we have to restaurants that either might have costs that are prohibitive at the moment. So, you could be running an operation that is really expensive and you may not be getting the footfall that you were used to getting. And as a result, you might need to downsize. You might need to actually say, I want to continue what I'm doing. I want to continue cooking and I want to continue hosting people, but I now need to do that a little bit differently than I had. And so the idea came, what if we offer and see if there's interest? And see whether some of these restaurants would consider using our spaces and continuing to deliver via the platform. And we put it together, I think, within probably 24 hours, if I'm honest now. And we thought, let's make it super simple by just describing what it is and asking people to express their interest. And so we left it, and then we got for 100 spaces more than 400 different applicants.
Of course, I mean, look, Talabat is the biggest food brand app in the UAE, right? So you must have had a list of applicants already that wanted to join and be a part of Talabat.
We did, and look, we said we're going to reserve these 100 spaces and we're not going to sell them and rent them the way that we normally do, because we want to meet the moment that we all find ourselves in. And I think it was particularly important to us to say, we're not going to say, let's offer these rent-free for a month, because of course this happened the first week and we had no idea and we still don't know how long the current situation is going to go on for. But we thought, let's just give it until September, because, and if you run a business yourself, food businesses need continuity and you need time to both operationally set up, you need time to ramp up, and you need time to ensure that, your audience knows where you are and that you're consistent. And so we made a decision to offer these spaces, to set them aside no matter what until September. And as I said, we had businesses apply right away, and we continue to have businesses that are applying. And as we understand this was a need that was really met, and for that we're really glad.
Yes. So my question, my ask, I suppose, is there's so many restaurants here, so many in Dubai, UAE, in the region. I think what you're doing is phenomenal, so well done.
Thank you.
My question is, there are so many others that are also really struggling. Are you absorbing any of the percentages, their costs, on the delivery? That I know normally the delivery platforms take quite a high percentage. Have you guys absorbed some of that in these tough times for the restaurants?
So we actually done a lot in March already, and we continue to do so. I will mention the initiative we have, to the point that you made around there being many restaurants here. We actually focus on homegrown businesses. So that was really important to us. We wanted to say, look, we're so blessed with the number of restaurants and the different food choices we have in the UAE, but we're also blessed with a very local entrepreneurial scene. And so we said the restaurants that have been in the UAE that were established here, really, you could have a presence anywhere, but we wanted restaurants that were established here.
The homegrown
and really might have expanded from here. And we wanted restaurants that, you know, while we understand there are actually many restaurants that are starting now, even in this environment, because the fact that, you know, we're not in business as usual doesn't mean that the spirit, in any entrepreneurial spirit when it comes to food and beverage industry stops in any way. But we wanted to focus on those. And, you know, as a result, we're really sort of saying, let's help that subset of businesses to continue to operate and be here no matter what.
Okay.
At the same time, we launched an initiative called Tea Grow, and that's an initiative that we launched in partnership with the Dubai Economy and Tourism. And that's another initiative meant to your point, very much alleviate the cost of doing business for Emirati entrepreneurs. And so there we have a specific program where we not only offer a very attractive commission rates, but we also have particular training on, you know, what it takes to do well on delivery. Because that also may seem simple, but it actually is quite complex. From packaging to the menu design to, you know, what kind of food travels well. It is not simple. And so we're providing that on top. And then, you know, throughout March, we've also done quite a bit to actually continue to stimulate demand, because what the businesses really want and need, they need orders. They need orders, and they're, you know, be it dine-in or virtual or delivery, they need orders. And so we've done a lot to continue to provide offers and to co-participate with some of our brands. We've also reduced delivery fees, so we get more people who perhaps are not ordering to continue to order. We've done much more of that than we normally do, because we thought, you know, this is the moment where, you know, as a brand that is of this region and that finds UAE as its headquarters for our 8 markets, the place where we IPO'd 2 years ago as the largest global IPO in 2024, we owe it to this region to continue to be a player and to get others to continue to use us as a platform for success. And so there are many things that I want to continue to do, but I'm really glad to be able to talk about the couple that we've done already.
I'm a regular consumer of Talabat. I think you understood this by some of the feedback I gave you off camera. I'm a big fan of the brand. My question is slightly different. It's been a very confusing time for a lot of us. I want to ask you a little bit more about your Talabat delivery riders. I mean, they are the unsung heroes. We've had, you know, difficult weather, uncertainties in general. How can we be nicer to them, and how are they feeling at this point of time?
Thank you, by the way, for asking this question. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for being a loyal customer.
You're welcome.
I always get 2 types of feedback. Either it's praise or, you know, specific requests and questions about things we should do.
Mine was very specific. I bet you haven't.
I owe you the answer. You're right. So when it comes to our riders, so we've actually had some pretty unprecedented circumstances, and I don't just mean the conflict that had started now over a month ago. I also mean continuous rain period that we've actually not had. We've had floods 2 years ago, of course, but we haven't had this many continuous days of inclement weather where we have water and rain accumulation. And so our logistics teams and our riders have definitely have to deal with some circumstances that are far from your business as usual. Now, what I'm really proud of in particular is the fact that we have, I think as you mentioned, we have the largest fleet in the UAE, and we continue to do everything we absolutely can to ensure that the most important thing for all of us is that they are first safe and that they are comfortable when they're delivering. I think the one thing I'm very proud of is that ever since the beginning of the conflict, we have never required any one of our riders to log in. So they're only logging in and they're only delivering if they feel comfortable to do so. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we do is we have patrollers, and so they look a little bit different than our regular riders. They have a bit of a different uniform, so they're recognized by our riders. These patrollers are all over every single emirate. So they are sort of our eyes and ears on the ground. They actually don't deliver any orders. All that they do is ensure safety and reliability of our service. And so they're on the ground telling us the actual conditions. And so that way we can rely on what's actually going on the ground, and we can act in real time. And then we have a continuous communication with our riders where we're always communicating to them through the actual rider app, ensuring and checking in for their safety. And to the question of how can we be nicer to them, I think,
just tip them.
Tips is sort of it's table stakes at the moment.
That's our love language.
That's absolutely table stakes at the moment. We've done many things in terms of tokens of appreciation for the riders since the beginning of this. I think, kindness and patience, it really cannot be overestimated, because the riders really are the face of everything we do. You have the brands, you have the aggregator, and then you have the riders that are sort of at the final cycle of that journey. And so engaging with the fleet and really kind of thanking them for the fact that I think they give us all a feeling of normalcy, and that cannot be.
I think, yeah, it's really interesting you've touched on that. I know we're short on time now, but that sounds like such an obvious thing to do, but so many people don't do it and actually connect with those guys. I'm literally like, bro, what's up? And I love it, and I love, like, I'm always like, do you need anything from me? I think sometimes they're like, no, you have your food, like, you know, whatever. But it's such a lovely touch. So thank you so much.
You've done a really good job with the drivers, actually. They are the best drivers out of all of the other delivery drivers.
We don't compete, and you know, in fact, it's really amazing because I think the rider community is a rider community that crosses different brands, and they help one another. I think there are people that, you know, really are the patrollers of the streets. You know, when there's an accident that happens, they help one another. They help anyone that is stopped on the street. So you'll see this. You know, if you see, like, they will stop, and they know that these streets in this country better than anybody. But they really are a community in and of themselves, first and foremost.
Not just the tips, I also try to be nice to them on the roads, because I'm sure it's quite scary, you know, in these roads. Not just the rain, but also our extreme heat sometimes that we experience. So, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I will continue to give you my very unique feedback.
I'm here for it. Part of the job. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me. It's been a pleasure.